All right, so welcome to the deep dive,
Yeah, welcome.
where we're going to be diving deep into a particular person or topic.
That's right.
And today we're going to be diving deep into Jack Welch,
Jack Welch.
the legendary CEO of GE.
The one and only.
And we're going to be looking at
His book.
his book, Straight from the Gut,
Straight from the Gut, his autobiography, yeah.
and trying to figure out what made this guy tick.
Absolutely.
How did he do what he did?
He's just to remind listeners, turned GE from a $13 billion company to over $400 billion.
100 billion? Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
I can't even fathom that.
I think it's hard to overstate how big of a deal that is.
Yeah.
To grow a company to that size.
So let's
start with the beginning.
Let's start with the beginning, yeah.
So Jack Welch, he comes from humble beginnings.
Okay.
Working class family in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Right.
And really was shaped by his mother, who instilled in him a real sense of competition.
Okay.
And, facing reality.
Facing reality.
These were kind of like the family mottos.
That's so interesting because that seems like that would lay the foundation for his leadership style later.
It really does.
I read that he struggled with stuttering as a kid.
He did.
Did that hold him back?
It really could have.
Yeah.
But his mother had a really interesting spin on it.
Okay.
Instead of letting him see it as this weakness, she told him that it was because his mind was racing ahead of his words.
Oh, wow.
That he was thinking so fast that his mouth couldn't keep up.
That's a great way to...
So she turned it into this... this positive thing. And that probably really helped him later in life.
I bet.
As a leader.
Right. Someone who needed to negotiate.
Right. All the public speaking.
Give speeches.
So, how did he even end up at GE?
Well, he went and got his... his chemical engineering degree.
Okay.
Went on and even got his PhD.
Wow.
And then in 1960, he landed a job at GE.
Okay.
But, get this.
Okay.
Almost walked away after a year.
What? Really?
Yeah.
But this is the start of his journey.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But, he found it too bureaucratic.
Too bureaucratic?
Everybody got the same standard raise, no matter how good they were.
I can see him not liking that.
No, not at all. He really felt like individual brilliance could be lost.
Lost in the machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he sounds like he's someone who likes to push the limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? He was going to walk away, but...
Well, he was ready to hand in his resignation.
Wow.
But a manager named Reuben Gutoff really saw something special in him.
Oh, yeah.
And convinced him to stick around, promised him a raise, and vowed to fight that bureaucracy alongside him.
So Gutoff becomes like a mentor.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Sees potential.
Yeah, really takes him under his wing. And
so Welch takes that advice to heart.
He does.
Yeah.
And instead of just doing his job,
right,
he starts doing extra work. Boy. Cost reports, competitor analyses.
Oh, wow.
Really going above and beyond.
So already he's
setting himself apart.
Yeah,
exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
And there's this great story.
Okay.
When he wanted a promotion to general manager.
Yeah.
He didn't just wait.
Okay.
He called Gutoff relentlessly for a week.
Wow.
To make his case.
Wow. Persistent.
Talk about persistent.
Yeah. So did it work?
It did. He got the promotion.
Wow.
And he ended up actually leading the development of this wildly successful new plastic blend for GE that brought in billions of dollars.
Okay.
So it was a major turning point for him, moving his leadership and also his eye for talent.
Now, this is before he even became CEO. Right. This is all before he was CEO.
He was already making huge waves.
Huge waves, yeah. But his rise to CEO,
I want to hear about that.
That's a whole nother story. But he eventually ends up as a candidate for the top job.
Right.
And this is where things get really interesting.
I've heard about this, the airplane interview.
The airplane interview.
Right.
So the then chairman, Red Jones, had this unconventional way of testing successors. He would say, imagine we're on a company plane.
Okay.
It crashes. We both die.
Oh, my God.
Who should be the next CEO?
Oh, my goodness. What a question.
Talk about pressure.
So how did he handle that?
Well, he didn't flinch.
Okay.
Calmly assessed the situation.
Right.
Weighed strengths and weaknesses of the other candidates.
Wow.
Laid out a vision for GE's future.
Impressive.
Definitely impressed Jones. But then came the follow-up.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah. Jones says, all right, this time I die in the plane crash.
Okay.
But you survive.
Right. Who should be CEO now?
Oh, my gosh.
And Welch, without missing a beat, said, me.
Bold.
I am the best person for the job.
Oh, love it.
So
it worked.
It worked. 1981.
Yeah.
45 years old.
Wow.
Youngest CEO in GE's history.
Wow. And ready to shake things up?
Absolutely. But, before we dive into Neutron Jack and all of that, I think it's helpful to understand what was the state of GE when he took over?
Right. So
why did he feel like...
What were the big company diseases that he was facing?
Well, you got to imagine a company that had become so big that it had gotten a little bit sluggish.
Slow,
Layers of management. Slow decision-making. Lack of accountability.
So not just bureaucracy, but a sense of complacency.
Yeah, they were comfortable with their own success. And Welch?
Not a complacent guy.
Not at all. He was a believer in excellence. Challenging the status quo. Getting rid of anything that wasn't contributing.
Okay, so I'm starting to see why the fix it, close it, or sell it approach.
Yeah.
But selling 71 businesses.
That's huge.
Wow.
Imagine having the guts to sell off almost 100 businesses.
What impact did that even have on the company?
So he wanted to focus on the strongest performers.
Okay.
And he made sure that GE was number 1 or number 2 in every sector that they operated in.
Yeah.
And this is where that Neutron Jack nickname comes in.
Right, because he got rid of the people but kept the buildings.
Right, just like a neutron bomb.
Thousands of jobs.
It made him
controversial.
A very controversial figure.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge that, those job cuts were incredibly difficult for the people affected.
Right.
But Welch argued that they were tough.
Right.
But necessary decisions.
To make the company
more competitive.
And ultimately save more jobs in the long run.
Right, so a calculated risk.
A calculated risk.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
So he streamlined the business.
Streamlined.
What about his focus on people?
Okay, so...
He called GE this people factory.
Yeah, so he understood that, building a world-class company meant building a world-class team.
Right.
So he implemented these rigorous performance evaluations.
Okay.
Promoted the people that excelled.
Okay.
Regardless of their background or tenure.
Really break down those corporate hierarchies.
Yeah.
He called it a boundaryless organization.
So it wasn't just about cutting jobs. It was also about finding them.
Absolutely. And empowering them to innovate and to thrive within GE.
Yeah, so I'm seeing this pattern of exceeding expectations.
Absolutely.
Pushing boundaries, striving for excellence.
That's at the core.
It's like of his being.
Yeah. Yeah. It became the driving force behind GE.
Yeah. And that led him to some pretty innovative ideas.
Okay.
That went way beyond restructuring globalization on a whole new level.
So he was ahead of the curve when it came to globalization.
He really was.
Right.
Yeah.
What made his approach so different?
It was more than just selling products overseas.
Okay.
He was looking at the bigger picture.
Right.
He actually focused on what he called out-of-favor regions.
Out-of-favor?
For the best risk-reward opportunities.
What do you mean by out-of-favor?
So, for example, back in the 1990s when everyone was hesitant about Asia, he saw the potential.
Oh, wow.
And moved GE's power generation sales center.
To Asia.
To Hong Kong.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Bold move. And he wasn't just selling to them.
Right.
He was investing in these regions.
Okay.
He poured resources into building GE's presence in India.
Okay.
He established an R&D center there.
Wow.
And he tapped into this incredible pool of engineering talent.
So he understood that globalization wasn't just about...
It wasn't just about products.
Right.
It was about accessing the intellectual capital of the world.
That's a lesson that's still relevant today.
It's more relevant now than ever.
Yeah. So he's restructuring.
Yeah.
He's building a top-notch team.
Right.
He's going global.
Global.
What other innovations did he champion?
Well, he was a huge proponent of Six Sigma.
Oh, yeah. Six Sigma.
Which is this incredibly rigorous, quality control process that's now a gold standard in many industries and e-business.
Oh, wow.
He was an early adopter, really recognized the transformative power of the internet before a lot of other people.
Right. So it sounds like he was constantly looking ahead, trying to anticipate the future and just position GE for success.
Absolutely.
But with all these changes, were there downsides?
That's a great question.
Was everyone on board with this?
Well, that leads us to some of the more controversial aspects of his legacy. Okay.
He achieved incredible success. But not everyone agreed with how he did it.
Right. Some would say he was too focused on the short-term gains.
Right, the short term.
At the expense of the long term.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the criticism that his relentless pursuit of excellence created a culture that was just too competitive, too stressful.
Yeah.
I mean,
not everyone thrives in that environment.
Can't be Neutron Jack.
Right. So it's a complex legacy, for sure.
Incredible results.
Incredible results.
But at what cost?
Yeah. And it makes us ask, what does it really mean to be an effective leader?
Right.
How do you balance the needs of the company with the well-being of its employees?
It's such a
good question.
A complex issue.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes studying someone like Welch so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because he forces us to think about these really hard questions, these complex issues. And to think critically about leadership and its impact on organizations and people. So I think we've uncovered some key insights.
I think so.
Into what made Jack Welch tick. We've seen his drive, his vision, willingness to make these tough decisions.
Absolutely.
But there's still so much more to explore.
There is.
So let's take a moment to gather our thoughts. And when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into his legacy.
Sounds good.
Examining his impact. And the lasting lessons we can learn.
Okay.
His successes and his missteps.
I'm ready.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking all about Jack Welch, the guy who turned GE into a powerhouse. We talked about his tough decisions, but now let's look at how those decisions played out over time. What was the impact?
Right, because it's one thing to make bold moves, but it's another to really understand, the ripple effects.
Exactly.
Some of his decisions sparked huge debates about the role of a CEO, profits versus people, short-term versus long-term, all those things.
Absolutely, yeah. We talked about the controversy surrounding his Neutron Jack nickname. All those jobs that were lost. How did he even address those concerns?
He argued that the job cuts were absolutely necessary to make GE more competitive in a rapidly changing global landscape.
Right. He had to streamline.
Right. He had to streamline the company to focus on its strongest sectors.
Right.
And he said that by doing that, he could ultimately save more jobs in the long run.
So it was a calculated risk.
Absolutely.
He was gambling.
Right.
That a leaner, more focused GE would
be better positioned for the future.
Yeah.
And in fairness, GE's stock price soared under his leadership. The company did become a global powerhouse.
But we can't ignore the human cost.
Right, the human cost.
Yeah.
The impact it had on all those people.
And their families and those communities.
Yeah, it's such a complex
issue.
Yeah, and it really makes us think about the responsibilities of a leader.
Not just to shareholders.
Right, not just to shareholders.
But to the employees.
The employees, the communities they operate in, the whole picture.
And this is where his legacy gets so interesting.
Yeah.
Because despite his Neutron Jack reputation, he also placed a huge emphasis on people.
Huge emphasis on people. He called GE a people factory.
Yeah.
He was obsessed with talent development.
Yeah. How do you reconcile those two things?
It seems contradictory.
Totally contradictory.
But he was deeply invested in cultivating leadership. Fostering innovation.
Right.
He created this system called rank and yank.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
Where employees were ranked and the bottom 10% were let go.
Oh.
It was controversial.
Yeah, babe.
But it was designed to reward top performers, regardless of their background.
So push everyone to
excel.
Excel. Hey.
Absolutely. Yeah. Constantly strive for the next level. Intense. But he also wanted to break down those barriers. Right. Create that boundaryless organization where ideas could flow from top to bottom.
It seems like there's a real tension there.
There is a tension.
Between that cutthroat competition And that
open communication.
Openness, right? Yeah. Collaboration.
And I think that tension is something that people still debate to this day.
So his legacy
is very mixed.
Very mixed.
But even his critics acknowledge that he transformed GE.
Yeah.
He left a mark.
A huge mark on the business world.
Yeah.
What are some of the key takeaways for anyone listening?
So I think, first of all, you have to have a clear vision and the courage to pursue it.
Even when people push back.
Even when people push back. Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to shake things up.
Right.
Challenge conventional wisdom.
Right.
Make bold decisions for future success.
He was also, I mean...
a master communicator.
A master communicator. Like, he wrote this best-selling book.
Best-selling books.
Straight from the gut.
Straight from the gut.
He knew how to connect with people. He did articulate his vision.
That's crucial for any leader.
Yeah.
You got to be able to inspire and motivate.
Right.
Build trust.
Totally.
On the people you work with.
So vision, communication.
Yeah.
Willingness to take risks.
Go take calculated risks.
Those are some pretty good leadership traits.
They are.
But we also have to look at...
we have to learn from...
the more controversial stuff.
The controversial stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the importance of balance.
Yeah, he was laser focused on performance and results.
Which got him success.
Right. But it also maybe created a culture that was too demanding.
Yeah. Too focused on the bottom line.
So maybe sustainable success requires...
balance.
The balance.
Between performance and well-being.
Right. For employees.
For your employees, yeah.
Right, because people are your most valuable asset.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's about respect, trust, well-being.
This is good for every leader.
Yeah, every leader.
To remember, not just business.
Right. It applies to
healthcare, education, all these fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then there's ethics. Right.
Right. The ethical side of things.
Some of his decisions raised questions.
Like the job cuts.
The job cuts.
Yeah.
Environmental practices.
Right.
So leaders have to be mindful of the ethical implications of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Strive to do what's right.
Not just what's profitable.
Not just what's profitable.
It's about leading with integrity.
Leading with integrity.
Aligning your decisions with your values.
Yeah.
That benefit everyone.
Absolutely.
Not just the company.
Yeah, the community.
The community.
The environment.
I think Welch's story.
It's a
really good
case study.
Yeah. Absolutely.
To really understand
what it takes to succeed. And the pitfalls to avoid.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's a good reminder that leadership is a journey.
It's a journey.
Not a destination.
Yeah. There are going to be ups and downs.
Successes and failures.
Exactly.
You got to make tough calls.
You do.
And there will be dilemmas.
You're going to face ethical dilemmas.
Right.
And the best leaders are the ones that learn.
Right. That's adapt.
Learn and adapt.
Yeah.
To all those changing circumstances.
And just try to constantly be better.
Constantly strive to improve.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to remember that there's no one right way to lead.
Oh, absolutely.
What worked for Jack Welch at GE might not work in every situation.
Totally. You got to find your own style.
Find your own style, your own approach.
That resonates with you.
That resonates with your team.
Yeah.
And be open to
new ideas.
Feedback, new ideas.
Yeah, because the world's constantly changing.
The world is changing so fast.
Right.
And the best leaders are the ones that can
adapt,
evolve with it.
I love that. So we've seen the highs and lows.
Yeah.
Bold decisions.
Controversial outcomes.
Right. But there's one more aspect of his leadership that I really want to talk about.
Okay.
And that's his focus on globalization.
Okay.
And his ability to kind of
anticipate trends.
Capitalize on trends.
Okay.
So let's take a closer look at that when we come back.
All right, so welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking about Jack Welch, the legendary CEO of GE. We've seen his drive, his vision, his controversial decisions. But now let's look at one more thing, his global vision. This guy was seeing opportunities across the world, before it was really a thing.
Yeah, he really was ahead of the curve.
Way ahead.
And we talked earlier about his focus on these out-of-favor regions.
Yeah, he had a knack for spotting potential where others saw risk, right?
Exactly.
Like his push into Asia in the 90s.
Yeah, everybody else was kind of hesitant.
Yeah.
He saw the future there.
Feels like that's where it's at.
That's where it's going to be. And it wasn't just about selling products over there.
Right.
It was about, having a presence there.
Okay.
Investing in local talent, building partnerships, tapping into, the strengths of each region.
So he wasn't just setting up shop. He was really integrating into those regions.
Yeah. I mean, he moved GE's power generation sales center to Hong Kong.
Wow.
That's a big statement.
That's a huge statement.
Yeah.
What was it about these out-of-favor regions that really drew him in?
Well, I think he saw untapped potential.
Okay.
Huge growth potential.
Right.
But it was more than that.
Really?
He recognized that globalization, it wasn't just about selling American products overseas.
Right.
It was about getting the best and brightest minds wherever they were.
So it was about really building a global team, right?
Exactly. A truly global team.
Yeah, leveraging that diversity of thought, expertise, all those different perspectives.
And he was way ahead of the curve on this.
Oh.
And you can really see that in his decision to set up a major R&D center in India.
Yeah, that's huge.
He knew that the future of innovation, it wasn't limited to one country.
Right.
It was about harnessing like the collective intelligence of the world.
That's a really powerful idea.
It is.
And it's even more relevant today, I think, than it was back then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So what can we learn from Welch's global playbook?
Well, I think the first thing is don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Okay.
Just because everyone's doing things one way doesn't mean it's the right way.
Right.
Look for opportunities where others see, roadblocks.
Obstacles.
Yeah. Embrace diversity.
Okay.
Don't just look for talent in your own backyard.
Right.
Cast a wider net.
Okay.
Find people with different backgrounds, different perspectives.
Different ways of thinking.
Different ways of thinking, exactly. And third, don't underestimate the power of relationships.
Okay.
Globalization, it's not just about transactions.
Right.
It's about creating partnerships.
Right.
It's about building connections.
Yeah.
And understanding different cultures.
Right. So it's kind of like think globally, act locally.
Exactly.
Right. You've got that global vision, but you're tailoring your approach to the local context.
You got it.
Wow. This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
We've explored the highs and lows of Jack Welch's leadership, his impact, the good, the bad, and all that.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
The ugly. He was a complex figure.
Very complex.
And his legacy is still something that we talk about, analyze, and debate today.
Definitely.
And I think that's the beauty of, looking at someone like Jack Welch.
Yeah.
He forces us to ask these tough questions, to deal with those ethical dilemmas, and to really think about what leadership is.
Absolutely.
What is it?
It's a big question.
Yeah, so what's the final verdict? Was he a hero, villain, visionary, tyrant?
I don't think it's that easy. It's not black and white.
Really?
He was all of those things. He was driven, ambitious, achieved incredible things, but also made decisions that really hurt some people.
Right.
So
He's a complicated guy. But I think the main thing is that we can learn from both the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
We can take those valuable lessons and apply them to our own lives, our careers, our own journeys as leaders.
And remember, leadership isn't about copying someone else.
Right.
It's about finding your own path.
Yeah.
Your own way to make a difference.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, your week, your year, ask yourself, what kind of leader do you want to be?
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you want to have? And how can you learn from the successes and the failures of those who came before you to build a better future?
Those are great questions to think about. And that's what the deep dive is all about. We want to spark curiosity, challenge assumptions, help you think critically and make better decisions.
So thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.